going on? My name is Melissa. I am the court liaison for the Lake County Mock Trial Program. I want to extend a big welcome to teams 14 and 24 as we begin our Lake County Mock Trial competition. With me today from the Lake County Office of Education is Erica Barish. She's the liaison from there. I also want to thank our guest scoring attorneys, Mary Amodio, Danny Flesh, and Megan Langford. Please join me in recognizing our appreciation for their donation of their time and support of our program. Lake County Superior Court and the Office of Education have partnered and prioritized the mock trial program as a truly rewarding opportunity for our high school youth. And we are most grateful and pleased with your participation and dedication. A couple of housekeeping items. Now, even though today is a court holiday and we are closed to the public, please remember to keep your voices down in the hallways. Court employees are still working in their offices. Today we're going to have breakouts for the team, excuse me, team 24. Your breakout will be in Department 4, so you can have lunch in there. And team 14, you'll be in here in Department 3's jury room. The restrooms, there's restrooms in each of the jury rooms and the courtrooms, but they're also in the hallway with a drinking fountain if you go out the door and on your left. Please turn off your cell phones. Caution if you're walking up here of any cords. You do not have the best power situation in this building, so we have to use a lot of extension cords. If something in the courtroom needs to be moved to accommodate the trial, you may do so. Simply remember to put it back when you're done for the day. The first trial should conclude around 11 o'clock, and our second trial will begin promptly at 12:30. Please be back in the courtroom and ready to go around 12:15, 12:20. Lunch is on your own. Students, a reminder to you that if the scorers recognize an exceptional talent, skill, or professional aspect, you may be scored at a level to receive an individual recognition award for today. We will be taking care of those at the end of our second trial this afternoon. So everybody, take some deep breaths, maybe clear your throat, speak loudly and clearly, and have fun today. And we'll get started in just a few moments.
Can we have the list of the witnesses and the genders? We'll do it. Witness rules? Yeah. Please.
All rise. Superior Court of State of California, County of Lake, Department 3 is in session. Judge Jay Davis is presiding. Please be seated and come to order. Please turn off all cell phones and refrain from talking.
Hey, welcome. You guys should be really proud of yourselves. I know that you've worked really hard to get here. And this is, I heard you've been in here and done this before. This is my first time as a judge over a mock trial, so I think I'll be the nervous one today. But just relax and realize that this is hard to do even after you've been to law school. I remember my first trial, I was really nervous. And it's something that with practice and time, you can overcome that nervousness. In fact, I'll tell you a story. When I was in junior college, I wanted to go to Sac State, and in order to go to Sac State, I had to take a speech class. So I enrolled in the speech class at the junior college. It was time for my first speech. I couldn't do it, so I dropped the class. and I ended up going to UC Davis instead because I didn't have to take speech to get there. How I became an attorney is a longer story, so I won't get into that. But anyway, you can overcome being nervous, so if you feel nervous, it's perfectly normal. So anyway, I want you guys to get started and stop listening to me talk. And as my torts professor used to tell me, I'd wish you luck, but luck is for the unprepared. So we'll get started. So to help myself and the attorney scores, will the prosecution team please state your name and your role?
Yes, Your Honor. My name is Miley Attorney for the people. Today I'm presenting the pre-trial motion. At this time, will my co-counsel please introduce themselves?
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Erica Kinsell for the people. Today, I will be presenting the opening statement as well as conducting the direct examination of Officer Keegan Lopez as well as the cross-examination of Marlo Patterson.
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Jack Rarick for the people. Today I'm conducting the direct examination of Dr. Chung and Cameron Holmes, as well as the cross-examination of Sam Closhin and Dr. Blake Williams.
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Jessica Zell for the people. Today, I am conducting the direct examination of Sawyer Smith as well as the cross-examination of Reagan Klein. I will also be presenting the closing argument. At this time, may our witnesses please introduce themselves?
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Bella Ruiz. Today I am portraying Officer Keegan Lopez.
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Natalie Rodriguez. Today I am portraying Cameron Holmes.
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Alexandra Invernetti. Today I'm portraying Dr. Dakota Chung.
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Henry Fank. Today I am portraying Sawyer Smith. At this time, may our court clerk please introduce herself.
Yes.
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Lily Sampson. Today I am the clerk. I will be giving a visual warning of 2 minutes, 1 minute, 30 seconds, and a visual and verbal stop. At this time, may your coaches please introduce themselves?
Yes.
Good morning, Your Honor. Yanina Hoskins, attorney coach for Team 14.
Good morning, Your Honor. John Hopkins, attorney coach for Team 14.
Good morning, Your Honor. Lee Hoag, teacher coach for Team 14.
Good morning. And the first team, can you state your name and role?
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning, Your Honor. Kristen Sweeney, and for today's proceedings, I will be conducting pre-trial matters. May my lawyer team please introduce themselves?
Yes.
Good morning, Your Honor. Russell Gordon for the defense.
Good morning, Your Honor. Jasmine Haro for the defense. Good morning, Your Honor. Bolden Garrison for the defense.
May our witness team please introduce themselves?
Yes.
Good morning, Your Honor. Jarrett Thornberry. For today's proceedings, I am Sam Closhin.
Good morning, Your Honor. Emily Stiff. And for today's proceedings, I am Marlo Patterson.
Good morning, Your Honor. Jeff Fan. And for today's proceedings, I am Dr. Blake Williams.
Good morning, Your Honor. Giselle Horn. And for today's proceedings, I am Regan Klein.
May our bailiff please introduce herself?
Yes.
Good morning, Your Honor. Jasmine Myers. For today's proceedings, I am the bailiff. At this time, I have a copy of the team rulebook, also a copy of the case packet if you need a copy.
Okay, I think I have all of that.
Also,
Thank you.
Your Honor, may I direct the witnesses to where I would like them to stand while I swear them in?
Yes.
All witnesses, defense, and prosecution, please stand here and follow my instructions to be sworn in. Thank you.
May our unofficial timer please introduce herself?
Yes.
Good morning, Your Honor. Katie Beauregard, and for today's proceedings, I am the unofficial timer.
May our teacher coaches please introduce themselves?
Yes.
Good morning, Your Honor. Alex Stabiner, teacher coach for Team 24.
Good morning, Your Honor. Judy Kennard, attorney coach for Team 24.
Good morning, Your Honor. Anna Sabaloni, teacher coach, Team 24.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And you must complete your presentations within the specified time limits. The clerk will signal you as your time for each section of the presentation begins to run out. When your total time for each section runs out, you will be stopped even if you have not finished. Attorneys must call 4 witnesses. This is a bench trial. At the end of the trial, I will render a verdict of guilty or not guilty in relation to the charge brought. The teams will be rated based on the quality of their presentation, independent of my verdict. Barring unforeseen circumstances, no recesses will be called. If for any reason a recess is necessary, team members should remain in their appropriate places and should have no contact with spectators or coaches. Remember that objections are limited to the California Mock Trial Simplified Rules of Evidence located in the case packet. If there are no questions, the trial or pretrial arguments will begin. Both sides have 4 minutes to present their arguments. The defense will begin. I will interrupt to ask clarifying questions. Time spent answering my questions is not included in the 4-minute time limit. At the conclusion of your arguments, each side will be offered 2 minutes of rebuttal time. Remember that the rebuttal time is to be used to counter your opponent's arguments. It cannot be used to raise new issues. Is counsel for the defense ready to begin?
Yes, Your Honor.
And
May
please summarize your argument.
it please the court? Your Honor, we ask you to dismiss the charge of a count 1 criminal threat based on the fact that the comment made is a First Amendment right of the Constitution of the United States. We can look at 3 things to determine this. 1, that this is not a threat. 2, that the surrounding circumstances do not make it a threat. And 3, that no reasonable person would be afraid. For my first point, we look at in Reed George T. and in DC versus RR. Both of these prior cases show us that the comment made needs to have 3 criteria. This comment being, I hate you, you deserve to die. I'm going to get you for this. You think you can stick me with a $34,000 lawsuit and just get away with it? Watch your back, Sawyer. I'm coming for you. These three criteria state that we need to look at whether or not the words intend a specific bodily harm, 2, whether or not it has a specific time, and 3, how this bodily harm will take place. But in this comment, we see none of that. Now for my second point, we look at the history of harassment. All of the harassment being done in this case were comments over the internet, and they were not aggressive in any way. We can look at Huntington Life Science versus Stop Huntington Animal Cruelty. In this, we see a period of time where comments were being made on a website. These comments were, I am going to kill you, I am going to shoot you, we're going to get you for this. These are specific threats and bodily harm. In our case, it just shows that the client wanted to embarrass them. They were simply saying, you look lonely, and posting embarrassing photos. We also see that because all of this was done over the internet, there was no actual human interaction. There we see in People versus Chandler, where a man was swinging a golf club at someone. This was in person. They had reason to be afraid of this person. And this leads me to my third point. We see in People versus Allen what a reasonable person would do while afraid. They would contact the police. Sawyer Smith didn't know exactly who was behind this catfishing for 1 day and never reported the incidents to police. We also see that he commented back on this supposed threat, LOL, as if you're done now, bye. This shows us that he was not afraid. He was laughing at the person, dismissing them. He also states in his own witness statement, line 50 and 51, when the swatting was actually taking place, I thought someone might be trying to break in or steal something. This was hours after the supposed threat. And if he was truly afraid, he would think my client was coming after him, not a simple robber. So we ask you, the judge, to dismiss the count 1 criminal threat, because this protects my client's First Amendment right. Thank you.
Thank you. Prosecution, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Miley Turney, and I represent the people. Today, the prosecution asks that you deny the defense motion to dismiss count 2, California Penal Code Section 422, making a criminal threat. The intent to inflict bodily harm was displayed, and Sawyer Smith was in a reasonable amount of sustained fear. The First Amendment does not protect the hyperbolic and unequivocal language used in the true threat that Reagan Klein sent to Sawyer Smith on August 14th. On August 14th, Reagan Klein posted an online comment on Sawyer Smith's direct public social media page. This comment read, "You deserve to die. I'm going to get you for this. You just wait. I hate you. When you're dead, no one will even miss you, you monstrous slime of a person. You think you can stick me with a $34,000 lawsuit and just get away with it? Watch your back, Sawyer. I'm coming for you." If this is determined to be a true threat, then the defense motion must be denied. DC versus RR defines a true threat as a statement conveying a serious expression of intent to inflict bodily harm. It was displayed 3 times in DC versus RR when the defendant wrote he wanted to kill the victim, ripped the victim's heart out, and pound the victim's head with an ice pick. This was not a few words shouted over a brawl. It was a series of grammatically correct sentences composed at a computer keyboard and typed over a period of at least several minutes. The defendant also had to decide to send it after typing it. It was deliberate, and it was interpreted as exactly that. This California appellate court case relates to our case today, with the online comment being thought out and directly sent to the victim, Sawyer Smith. The intent to inflict bodily harm was displayed 4 times when the defendant, when Reagan Klein wrote, he told Sawyer to watch their back, stated, "I'm coming for you," told Sawyer they didn't deserve to live, and stated, "I'm going to get you for this." Reagan Klein also decided to send this threat directly to Sawyer Smith. California 1300 jury instructions state that determining a threat is clear, immediate, unconditional, and specific, you have to determine history as well as hyperbolic language. In our case, Reagan Klein publicly harassed Sawyer Smith. Reagan Klein catfished Sawyer Smith with a fake account they had created, and even cyberbullied Sawyer Smith. People versus Chandler, a California Supreme Court case, states that you have to consider history as well as hyperbolic language. And in Chandler, there is a history of repeated profanities yelled at every confrontation for each of the 2 victims. But the second victim responded, "Bring it on." It was determined that even a person in sustained fear can make a comment suggesting that they aren't in fear, because it's reasonable for people who are afraid to desire not to show it. This goes to show that Sawyer's response to Reagan Klein's true threat does not mean that Sawyer Smith was not afraid. Also, today we must examine the history and the hyperbolic language used in the true threat that Reagan Klein sent to Sawyer Smith on August 14th. We must also take into account that even a person in sustained fear can make a comment suggesting that they aren't in fear. The First Amendment does not protect the hyperbolic language used in the true threat that Reagan Klein sent to Sawyer Smith, and the history has to be taken into account. Today we ask that you deny the defense motion to dismiss count 2, making a criminal threat. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rebuttal, Your Honor.
Yes, go ahead.
Prosecution has brought up 2 points. One, that this is indeed a true threat. They bring up the case DC versus RR and state the comments made were true threats in that case as well as ours. But in that case, it says, "I will pound your head in with an ice pick." As I stated before, this fits the 3 criteria needed. 1, that they are going to do something. 2, how they are going to do it. And 3, when they are going to do it. This comment fits that, but ours does not. It simply says, "You deserve to die." It never says that she will specifically intent bodily harm upon victim. And 2, that she was indeed in sustained fear even if she commented back as if she was not. But outside of social media, she can still contact the police if she is truly fearful for her life. The people on social media do not see what she does in her real life, so we have to also take into account what she does in her real life, not just the comments she makes back. And in real life, she stays at home, doesn't think Sawyer is breaking in, just thinks it's a robber or something like that. So we ask you, the judge, to still dismiss the charge of a count 1 criminal threat. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Rebuttal, Your Honor?
Yes.
Your Honor, despite what you've heard from the defense, the intent to inflict bodily harm was displayed in the unequivocal language of, I'm going to get you for this. Watch your back. I'm coming for you. You deserve to die, and when you're dead, no one will even miss you. The defense cites In Re George T., which includes a poem being shared with fellow classmates. There was no specific victim, there was no specific intent to inflict bodily harm. In our case, the intent to inflict bodily harm was displayed, and Sawyer Smith was in a reasonable amount of sustained fear. Sawyer was afraid of what Reagan Klein might do. Sawyer didn't get the chance to talk to the police because the same day that Reagan Klein got fired, they wrote a threat and they sent it directly to Sawyer, and that same night, Sawyer Smith was on their way to the hospital with a broken femur, blacked out from falling downstairs. The First Amendment does not protect this hyperbolic and unequivocal language, and the First Amendment doesn't protect what Reagan Klein said to Sawyer Smith on August 14th. The prosecution asks that you deny the defense motion, dismiss count 2. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, before I rule on the motion, students may confer with their attorney or teacher coaches regarding any trial irregularities. Please do so now.
The prosecution has none, Your Honor.
The defense also has none, Your Honor.
Okay, given the facts and circumstances here, particularly the comments, "You deserve to die, I'm coming for you," I do find that that was a true threat. So I am denying the defense's motion in this case. So we will begin with the trial now.
Your Honor, at this time, I ask my counsel to be allowed to rearrange.
Okay.
And at this time, may my counsel also rearrange, Your Honor?
Yes.
Your Honor, the prosecution has some housekeeping matters we'd like to take care of.
Okay.
The exhibits have been shown to the defense and there are no objections and they have been marked as evidence. We would also like permission to approach the witnesses, Your Honor.
Okay, permission's granted.
And we would like to know your preference about moving and about the well.
Just move as you see fit.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Any comments from the defense?
The defense has brought their own set of exhibits in case to, bring them up to the witness. We have shown this to the prosecution and there have been no objections as well.
Okay. And the people of the state of California are charging the defendant, Reagan Klein, with count 1. The defendant is charged with reporting a false emergency, which occurs when any person knows that the report is false and knows or should know that the response to the report is likely to cause death or great bodily injury, and great bodily injury or death is sustained by any person as a result of the false report. And count 2, the defendant is charged with a criminal threat, which occurs when any person willfully threatens to commit a crime which will result in death or great bodily injury to another person. We'll start with opening statements. Prosecution, are you ready to present opening statements?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, you can proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Cruel, malicious, and driven by intense jealousy, these dangerous emotions were brought about all because Reagan Klein couldn't stand that her friend could become famous. Reagan Klein harassed, threatened, and put the victim Sawyer Smith's life at risk. Reagan's cruel acts toward Sawyer started 7 months ago on July 2nd, when Reagan decided to start in her mission to destroy Sawyer's new career and life, and dragged her friends, Marlo and Cameron, into the situation. For the events resulting because of Reagan's intense jealousy, we are in court today, and Reagan Klein is charged with 2 counts, false report of an emergency and criminal threat. Today, the prosecution will prove Reagan Klein guilty of these counts beyond a reasonable doubt. Your Honor, there is no dispute as to whether Reagan Klein posted a threatening comment on Sawyer's Nowvic post. This happened only hours after Sawyer exposed Reagan's dirty secrets to their boss, Sam Klosky. As you will hear from Officer Lopez, Reagan openly admits to losing her temper and posting this threatening comment. The very comment read, "You deserve to die. I'm going to get you for this. You just wait. I hate you. When you're dead, no one will even miss you, you monstrous slime of a person. Watch your back, Sawyer. I'm coming for you." The defense will try to deny it, but deep down, Sawyer was terror-stricken by this comment, knowing of Reagan's cruel and jealous rage toward him. Not content with just posting the threat, later that night, Reagan acted on what her threat said. She saw her moment to silence Sawyer, with Marlo occupied by a phone call and Cameron waiting downstairs for a pizza. That is when Reagan Klein reported a false emergency to the East Flamingo Police Department. That is the false text tip, covered by count 1. As you will hear from Cameron Holmes, she left the apartment from 9 to 9:10, leaving only Marlo and Reagan with nothing to do in the apartment alone with her cell phone sitting in plain sight. She even saw Reagan using her phone when she came back up the stairs. As a result of this false emergency reported, the East Flamingo Police Department responded at Sawyer's residence. Sawyer became frightened by this and fell down a full flight of stairs, snapping his femur and blacking out from the pain. As you will learn today, Reagan Klein needed revenge on Sawyer Smith. She was blinded by her own jealousy of Sawyer's success. When Sawyer put Reagan second to his new profession, she took to acting out of pure spite and started to destroy Sawyer's new career and life. Today, the prosecution asks that you will find Reagan Klein guilty of false report of an emergency and criminal threat. Thank you, Your Honor.
Does the defense wish to give an opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor. Jealousy, anger, and revenge. That is what Cameron Holmes was feeling when she sent that text message on her own phone on the night of August 14th. Your Honor, in today's case, the prosecution is charging my client, Reagan Klein, with a false emergency report and a criminal threat. It's the prosecution and only the prosecution's burden to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that my client is guilty on both charges. And they will fail to meet that burden because they have the wrong person on trial today. The person that should be on the stand is Cameron Holmes. This case is about jealousy and revenge. And that jealousy and revenge comes from Cameron and Cameron alone. Cameron let his jealousy fester until it turned into rage, and she finally acted on it. My client, Reagan Klein, was suddenly dropped by her best friend, Sawyer Smith. And in this time of distress, she turned to her new friends, Marlo and Cameron. Cameron didn't see this as a start to something good. No. She saw this as someone stealing her best friend. And as time went on, Your Honor, she finally took her jealousy and did something about it. Cameron saw a new SWAT story at work. And that day, a seed planted, an idea formed. And Cameron had the opportunity to get rid of someone she felt was stealing her best friend. Today, the defense will call 4 witnesses to the stand. The first witness, Sam Kalajian, Reagan Klein's former boss. He will testify that Reagan Klein is a good person and a hard worker over the 6 years he knew her. Second, the defense will call Marlo Patterson, Reagan Klein's new best friend. She will testify that she never seen Reagan on Cameron's phone in more than a minute, and how her and Cameron went over to Reagan's apartment to calm her down about being fired. Third, the defense will call Dr. Blake Williams. Dr. Williams is a forensic linguist expert. He will testify the various language of Reagan and Cameron, and how different they are. And lastly, we will call the real victim on trial today, Reagan Klein. She will testify that she is a good person and a hard worker, and that she's seen Cameron on his phone the night the text tip was sent. There is just too many holes in the prosecution story to find my client, Reagan Klein, guilty on both charges. Your Honor, the defense requests that you find my client, Reagan Klein, not guilty. Thank you.
In prosecution, you can call your first witness.
Your Honor, the prosecution calls Officer Keegan Lopez to the stand.
Keegan Lopez. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to the facts and rules of mock trial competition?
Yes.
Please be seated. Please state your full name, spelling your last for the record.
Officer Keegan Lopez, LOPEZ.
Thank you.
Good morning, Officer Lopez.
Good morning, ma'am.
What is your occupation?
I am a member of the Special Weapons and Tactics team for East Flamingo Police Department.
And do you know Reagan Klein?
Yes, I interviewed Reagan Klein as a suspect for false report of an emergency.
Please identify Reagan Klein in the courtroom.
Reagan Klein is the young woman sitting at the end of the defense table wearing the blue blazer.
Your Honor, let the record reflect that the witness has correctly identified the defendant.
For the record, the witness has identified the defendant.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
Do you know Sawyer Smith?
Yes, Sawyer Smith was the only civilian we found when we responded to the text-to-tip about a hostage situation.
Officer Lopez, what happened on the night of August 14th?
We got a text-to-tip about a hostage situation at 511 East Flamingo Parkway, Sawyer's residence. We dispatched immediately.
What happened when you dispatched?
When we dispatched, we got there. The first level was clear and Sawyer was at the top of the staircase.
Did Sawyer do anything when you entered the house?
Yes, Sawyer got startled and fell down an entire flight of stairs. He then cracked his femur and then he blacked out. He was then rushed to the hospital.
Did you find anyone else in the house besides Sawyer?
No, ma'am, we did not.
What did this mean regarding the text-to-tip?
This meant the text-to-tip was false, ma'am.
Did you do anything after you found out that the text-to-tip was false?
Yes, ma'am. I went over to Reagan Klein's apartment and interviewed Reagan Klein, Cameron Holmes, and Marlo Patterson.
What were the topics that you interviewed them about?
I interviewed them about the threat on the NowPick account and the false text-to-tip.
What did Reagan Klein have to say about the threat on the NowPick?
Reagan Klein...
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
Your Honor, the objection to this hearsay, the exception to this hearsay objection would be admission by party opponent, since it is a statement made by Reagan Klein.
Response to that?
No, Your Honor.
The objection is overruled.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Reagan Klein admitted to losing her temper and posting a threatening comment on Sawyer's NowPick account.
What did Reagan have to say about the false text-to-tip?
Reagan Klein denied knowing anything about the false text-to-tip, but I found the phone that sent the text-to-tip in her apartment that night.
Whose phone did you find the text-to-tip on?
This was Cameron Holmes' burner phone, ma'am.
Officer Lopez, can you please take a look at Exhibit A right behind you?
Are you familiar with Exhibit A, Officer Lopez?
Yes, ma'am. Exhibit A is a transcript of the text-to-tip that was sent to the East Flamingo Police Department on August 14th at 9:08 p.m.
And is this transcript true and correct?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Your Honor, I ask that Exhibit A be admitted into evidence.
Any objection?
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, the defense, the Exhibit A is hearsay. It's an out-of-court statement being offered for the truth.
Response.
Your Honor, the exception to this objection would be subsequent action and state of mind.
Okay. I also find that it's not offered for the truth of the matter. So that objection is overruled. It's received.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
Officer Lopez, what did Reagan Klein have to say about the false text-to-tip on Cameron Holmes' cell phone?
Reagan Klein denied knowing anything about the false text-to-tip.
And did Reagan say anything about Cameron's cell phone?
Yes, ma'am. Reagan Klein admitted to looking at Cameron Holmes' cell phone that night around 9:11 p.m.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions. Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome. Cross-examination.
Good morning, Officer Lopez.
Good morning, sir.
You were on duty the night of August 14th, correct?
Yes, sir, I was.
And you interviewed Miss Klein, correct?
Yes, sir.
And isn't it true Miss Klein stated to you that she never had the intention to hurt anybody?
Yes, sir.
And isn't it also true Reagan Klein stated to you that she regretted the comments she posted on the Payne account?
That's correct.
And do you know who Marlo Patterson is?
Yes, sir, I do.
And did you interview Miss Patterson?
Yes, sir.
And isn't it true that Marlo Patterson stated to you that Cameron Holmes was strengthening his...
Objection, Your Honor. This question calls for hearsay.
May we hear, Your Honor?
Yes.
Your Honor, this is hearsay, but there's an exception hearsay. The exception being official records kept by a public employee.
Okay, I will sustain the objection at this time
Thank you, Your Honor.
because there's a lack of foundation regarding the fact that the declarant is a public employee.
The text-to-tip was sent on Cameron Holmes' phone, correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Officer Lopez, what did Reagan Klein have to say about being on Cameron Holmes' cell phone that night?
Reagan Klein admitted to looking at Cameron Holmes' cell phone around 9:11 p.m., ma'am.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions. May this witness be excused?
Anything further?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the prosecution calls Cameron Holmes to the witness stand.
Cameron Holmes. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give faithfully and truthfully conform to the facts and laws of the Constitution? Yes, I do. Please get seated. Please state your full name, spelling your last for the record. Cameron Holmes, Holmes. Thank you.
Good morning, Ms. Holmes.
Good morning, counsel.
How do you know the defendant in this case, Reagan Klein?
Yes, I do. I used to work with Reagan at Hennessy's restaurant.
Do you know Sawyer Smith?
Of course I do. I also used to work with Sawyer at Hennessy's restaurant.
And do you know Marlo Patterson?
Yes, Marla is my best friend, and I also work with Marla at Hennessy's.
Do you know what catfishing is?
Yes, I do. Catfishing is when you create a fake account and you try to pass it on as a real person. In my experience, I learned that it's a really bad thing to do.
What is catfishing? I mean, how are you involved in catfishing?
I participated in catfishing Sawyer along with Reagan and Marlo, and I am ashamed that I took part of it.
Who came up with this idea of catfishing Sawyer?
Reagan did.
Now, moving to the night of August 14th, what significant events, if any, happened that night?
Officer Lopez informed me of a SWAT incident, and someone used my phone to send a text.
Hearsay?
Response.
May I rephrase the question?
Go ahead. It'll be the same.
were you eating anything that night?
Yes, we ordered pizza that night.
Objection, relevance? What is the relevance to what she's
Overruled.
eating or not?
Overruled.
Thank you, Your Honor.
No. Your Honor, may Cameron Holmes approach the exhibits?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes, what is Exhibit E?
Exhibit E is a diagram of Reagan's apartment.
And is this a true and accurate copy of a diagram of Reagan's apartment on the night of August 14th?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, at this time, the prosecution asks that Exhibit E be moved into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection.
It's received.
Ms. Holmes, please show the court, using the exhibit, where you went to get the pizza that evening.
After Marlo told me that the pizza was arriving, I went downstairs that are located in the middle of the apartment. There's an arrow label down, and I waited there until the pizza got delivered on the porch.
How long were you waiting down there for the pizza to arrive?
I was waiting downstairs for about 10 minutes.
Now, Ms. Holmes, please show the court, again, using the exhibit, where you went to get where you put your phone down that night.
I didn't feel the need to bring my phone with me, so I put my phone plug into the wall on the side table. There is an arrow labeled phone.
When you came back upstairs from getting the pizza, was Reagan doing anything?
When I came back upstairs, I saw Reagan pressing
Objection,
my
Your
phone.
Honor, leading. This question that the counsel has asked is leading.
Overruled. You can
Thank
answer.
you, Your Honor.
When I came back upstairs, I saw Reagan closing my phone and setting it down on the side table where I had left it.
Did anyone else use your phone after Reagan put it down?
No, Reagan was
Objection, Your
last.
Honor, leading. Once again, this question was leading.
Overruled.
Thank you, Your Honor.
No, Reagan was the last person that I saw using my phone.
Now, did you send the false text tip that night?
Of course not. I would never do that.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Cross.
Cross, Your Honor. Good morning, Ms. Holmes.
Good morning, counsel.
Have you ever participated in catfishing?
Yes, I have, and I am ashamed that I took part of it.
And isn't it true that this catfishing was directed towards Sawyer Smith?
Yes, it is.
So you didn't like Sawyer Smith very much, did you?
I never said I didn't like Sawyer. Sawyer and I haven't been friends.
Well, you have an Outpick account, correct?
I do, yes.
And isn't it true that on this Outpick account you snapped a picture of Sawyer looking pathetic and added the caption #karma?
We all agreed to it, but yes.
And didn't you also say in your own words that Sawyer is the only one that Sawyer could blame and that she deserved this?
I guess you can say that, yes.
And is this something that you would say about someone you had absolutely no issues with at all?
I guess you can say that.
Isn't it true that you had become increasingly jealous of Reagan and Marlo's friendship?
I was upset.
Now I'd like to direct your attention to a comment you made while talking to Marlo Patterson. Didn't you say, "I miss it when it was just the two of us hanging out. Sometimes I wish we could go back and get Reagan out of the picture. This summer would have been a lot more fun"?
Yes, I did.
Isn't it true that you believed Reagan Klein was a jerk?
Yes.
And isn't it also true that you believed Reagan was stealing your best friend?
I guess you can say that, yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Redirect, Your Honor.
Okay, go ahead.
Ms. Holmes, was it just you running the account?
Of course not. Reagan and Marlo also they also participated in the caption account.
No further questions, Your Honor. May this witness be excused?
Anything further?
No.
Okay, yes. Your next witness?
Yes, Your Honor. At this time, the prosecution calls Dr. Chung to the witness stand.
Dr. Chung. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give faithfully and truthfully conform to the facts and rules of the trial competition?
I do.
Please be seated. Please state your full name, spelling your last for the record.
Dr. Dakota Chung, C-H-E-U-N-G.
Thank you.
Good morning, Dr. Chung.
Good morning.
Please explain your professional background.
I have a PhD in linguistics from the Western California University. I've also conducted over 100 author identifications and been an expert witness on 40 prior cases.
And how are you involved in today's case?
The prosecution has retained me to evaluate social media posts made by Reagan Klein and Cameron Holmes, then compare them to the false text tip.
What methods did you use when comparing these to the text tip?
I used a stylistic approach which is very effective when focusing on pairwise distinctiveness.
What is pairwise distinctiveness?
Pairwise distinctiveness is taking two possible authors and focusing the analysis on the variations between them.
Now, how is your analysis different than that of Dr. Blake Williams?
In this type of comprehensive comparison, I find a stylistic approach is more precise than word choice.
Your Honor, may Dr. Chung approach the exhibits?
Yes.
Looking at Exhibit C, what is Exhibit C?
Exhibit C is 3 tables I've compiled after examining social media posts made by Cameron and Reagan, as well as the false text tip.
Is this a true and accurate copy of your writing analysis?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, at this time, the prosecution asks that you move Exhibit C into evidence.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
C is received.
Dr. Chung, looking at Table 3, can you explain the use of commas?
Yes. While examining the false text tip, I found commas were most prevalently used. I found them present 3 times in the false text tip, 13 times in Cameron's writing, but 55 times in Reagan's writing.
Can you explain the use of multiple typographic explanations?
Yes. While examining the false text tip for multiple typographic explanations, I found them twice in the false text tip, twice in Cameron's writing, but 12 times in Reagan's writing.
What are multiple typographic explanations?
Multiple typographic explanations are the use of 2 or more exclamation marks at the end of a sentence.
Now, can you explain the use of 8-letter or longer adjectives?
Yes. While examining the false text tip, I found 8-letter or longer adjectives present twice in the text tip, 3 times in Cameron's writing, but 18 times in Reagan's writing.
Now, after evaluating all of this data, Dr. Chung, what is your final conclusion?
After thoroughly examining all of the data, my professional opinion is that Reagan Klein is most likely the author of the false text tip.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Cross.
Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
You made Exhibit C, correct?
Yes.
You are familiar with homophone substitutions?
Yes.
There are 2 homophone substitutions in the text tip, correct?
Yes.
And there are none in Reagan's comparison, am I right?
No.
Isn't it true that there are 9 substitutions in Cameron's comparison?
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Redirect.
Yes, Your Honor.
Dr. Chung, how much of the data did you have to evaluate to come up with your final conclusion?
To come up with a solid conclusion or a definitive answer, you have to evaluate you have to look at my whole graph and all of the 12 writing samples that I analyzed.
No further questions, Your Honor. May this witness be excused?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, yes.
Your Honor, the prosecution calls Sawyer Smith to the stand.
Sawyer Smith. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm the testimony you're about to give faithfully and truthfully conform to the facts and rules of the mock trial competition?
I do.
Please be seated. Please state your full name, spelling, and last for the record.
Sawyer Smith, S-M-I-T-H.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Smith.
Good morning.
Do you currently attend college?
Yes, I attend East Flamingo Community College with plans to transfer to a 4-year university when I earn the credits.
Do you currently have a job?
Yes, I work at a restaurant called Fancy's, and I have for the past 6 years.
Are you familiar with the defendant in this case today, Mr. Smith?
Reagan and I used to be best friends.
Are you familiar with NowPick?
I have a very popular NowPick account.
Could you please describe what NowPick is?
NowPick is a social media platform in which you post pictures about yourself and your life in order to gain more followers.
Now, pertaining to June 1st, did anything happen on this date pertaining to your NowPick account?
One of my Now Pick posts went viral, and before I knew it, I gained over 150,000 followers.
How did all these new followers make you feel?
I felt I needed to focus more on my brand now that I was a social media influencer.
How did you focus more on your brand, Mr. Smith?
Objection, relevance.
Maybe her. Thank you, Your Honor.
Overruled.
I made brand deals with local companies and cut out some of the less influential people in my life.
Mr. Smith, are you familiar with catfishing?
Unfortunately, I was catfished.
Could you please describe how you were catfished?
I was approached by an accountant named Hayden Carlton, and after the first few messages, we really hit it off. For a while, we just talked.
And did anything happen next with this account?
Eventually, we agreed to meet for a date at a nearby restaurant. When I arrived, I was stood up, and about half an hour later, there was a derogatory picture posted of me looking sad and dejected at the table alone.
Did anything else happen after this?
I decided to ignore them, but they continued to harass me for the next 2 weeks, posting mean pictures and captions and straight up lies about me.
Did you ever find out who ran this account?
The account eventually posted a private story that only Reagan and I knew, so I knew it had to have been Reagan behind the account.
Did you do anything in response to finding out Reagan ran the account?
I felt betrayed, so I approached my boss at Hennessy's and told him the truth about the oven Reagan had broken.
Do you know how Reagan responded, if any way, to you getting him fired?
Reagan posted a terrifying threat on my Now Pick page. He told me that I deserve to die, that I'm a monstrous son of a person, that he's coming for me, and that I better watch my back.
How did this threat make you feel?
I was terrified.
And on what date did he send you this threat?
August 14th, the day he got fired. She got fired.
Did anything else happen later that night?
Later that night at my house, I heard a commotion near my front door. When I went to go investigate, I saw the police there yelling at me to get down.
Did anything else happen after this?
In my panic, I must have slipped down the stairs because before I knew it, I was falling. It really hurt, and I felt my leg snap. I blacked out.
Now, Mr. Smith, after you fell down the stairs, what's the next thing you were aware of?
Waking up on my way to the hospital.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Cross-examination.
Good morning.
You knew that Reagan had broke Sam's oven, correct?
Yes.
Isn't it true that you told Reagan to keep the oven story away from Sam?
I recommended it, yes.
Isn't it also true that you lied to Sam when you found out about the oven?
Back when Reagan and I were friends, yes.
You have a Now Pick account, correct?
Yes.
You care about what other people think, correct?
Of course, it's part of my brand.
Isn't it true that you want to look tough for your followers?
Of course.
You dropped Reagan as a friend, correct?
Yes, Reagan wasn't that influential.
Who did you think was at your door the night of August 14th?
I thought somebody was trying to break in.
You didn't think it was Reagan at your door, correct?
I thought somebody was trying to break in, yes.
Objection, Your Honor. Counsel's question calls for unfair extrapolation. It never says anywhere that he knew who was going to break into his house or who was breaking in.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I asked who he thought was at his door. Then I said, you didn't think it was Reagan, correct? Because he says that it was he thought it was a robber, not that anything about Reagan. I just wanted to make that clear.
The objection is overruled. And
Thank
actually, we are going to take a brief recess. And I hate to do this, but I'm actually on call this week, and I just got a phone call, so I
Okay.
just need to take
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
No further questions.
Yeah, I apologize. Go ahead.
No further questions.
Redirect, Your Honor?
Yes, go.
Mr. Smith, why did you tell Sam the truth about the oven?
I was betrayed that Reagan would catfish me like that.
And why did you stop being friends with Reagan?
I stopped being friends with Reagan after they started living all high and mighty after living out of East Flamingo, and they weren't that influential.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further question. May this witness please be excused?
Anything further? Yes.
The prosecution rests at this time, Your Honor.
Thank you. Does the defense have any witnesses?
The defense calls Sam Colossian to the stand.
Sam Colossian. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to the facts and rules of the mock trial competition?
I do.
Please be seated. Please state your full name, spelling your last for the record.
Sam Colossian, Kolostiin.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Colossian.
Good morning.
Can you please introduce yourself to the court?
My name is Sam Colossian. I'm 55 years old, and I'm the owner of Hennessy's.
Who are your employees?
My employees are Cameron, Sawyer, Marlowe, and formerly Miss Reagan Klein.
How long have you known Reagan for?
I'd venture to say around 6 years.
During those 6 years, did Reagan ever have a history of violence?
No, actually, it's the opposite.
What do you mean by quite the opposite?
Well, I can actually think of a couple of events in my restaurant where she has actually had the potential to save your life.
Can you elaborate more on how she saved your life?
Well, I had a clumsy waiter in my restaurant one night, and as he was carrying plates of food to a table, he tripped, and a hot plate was going straight for a toddler's head. Reagan, without even thinking about it, reached out and grabbed the hot plate, saving the toddler from getting second-degree burns on her hands.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning, Mr. Colossian.
Good morning.
You're the owner of the Hennessy's restaurant, correct?
That's correct.
And you had a $34,000 oven for this restaurant, correct?
Yes, I did.
Isn't it true that Reagan broke this $34,000 oven?
Objection, lack of foundation. I disagree.
Oh,
Thank you, Your Honor.
wasn't it true that this oven was broke?
Objection, lack of foundation.
Maybe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you please repeat the question?
Who broke this oven? Or was this oven broke?
Yes, this oven was broken.
Who broke this oven that cost $34,000?
I was informed by Sawyer Smith months after the fact that Reagan Klein broke my oven.
So Reagan lied to you for 6 months, correct?
Yes, I'm just now finding out Sawyer Smith has been lying to me as well.
But Reagan Klein was lying to you for 6 months, correct?
Reagan and Sawyer both lying to me.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Leave it.
Very good, Your Honor. So, Reagan and Cameron both lied to you about breaking your oven, correct?
Reagan and Sawyer.
Sawyer, sorry. Sawyer and Reagan both lied to you about your oven.
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. May this witness be excused.
Yes. Next witness.
The defense, no charges,
Marlo Patterson. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm the testimony you're about to give faithfully and truthfully conform to the facts and rules of the mock trial competition? I do. Please be seated. Please state your full name, spelling your last for the record.
Marlo Patterson, Patterson.
Thank you.
Good morning, Ms. Patterson.
Good morning.
What do you currently do for a living?
I go to the University of California. I'm a senior there. I just finished my junior year, and I work at the restaurant of Hennessy's with Sam Colossian, Cameron Holmes, and Sawyer Smith.
How do you know Reagan decides her work?
Well, we're friends, and we've been working at Hennessy's together over the summer, and we've been getting closer, and Sawyer did something awful to get her fired.
And what did Miss Smith do that was so awful?
She told our boss that, he told our boss that she broke a $34,000 oven.
Objection, Your Honor, this question calls for hearsay. Your Honor, I'm simply asking this question to explain why Reagan was fired. I can rephrase the question. You need it.
Okay, go ahead. Rephrase.
And What did Miss Minton do that was so awful towards Reagan?
She got Reagan fired.
And what was your relationship like with Cameron?
We've been best friends since high school, but recently we've been drifting apart.
And why do you feel like you've been drifting apart?
Because she's been becoming more and more increasingly jealous of mine and Reagan's relationship, and she told me that if Regan and I weren't as close.
Objection,
and-
Your Honor. The witness's testimony calls for hearsay. Your Honor, may I be heard?
Yes.
This is hearsay, but it falls under the exception of a prior consistent statement because if my witness will be allowed to talk, what she has said has already been acknowledged priorly and crossed during Cameron Holmes.
Okay, that exception would apply if there was a charge of recent fabrication. There hasn't been, so it's overruled.
Can I still be heard?
Yes, go ahead.
It also falls under the exception of state of mind because I'm simply just trying to understand the state of mind of Cameron Holmes during the time the text-a-tip was sent.
It'll be sustained on that basis, or I mean overruled on that basis.
May you please repeat the question?
Why did you feel that you and Cameron were drifting apart?
Because she'd become more and more increasingly jealous of mine and Reagan's relationship, and she told me that if Regan was out of the picture, then we would become closer and it would be better for our friendship.
There has previously been testimony to catfishing. How did this take place?
Unfortunately, me and Cameron participated with Regan catfishing Sawyer Smith on Nowdek.
I would now like to direct your attention to the night of August 14th. What happened this night?
Regan invited me and Cameron over to talk about her being fired.
And if anything when you got there, what did you do?
Me and Regan and Cameron talked about how being fired made Regan feel, and how she posted a comment out of rage, but I know she didn't mean it.
What did you do after you finished talking to Reagan?
My sister called me, and before that I had ordered a pizza, so I sent Cameron downstairs to get it.
May I approach the witness with an exhibit that has been marked as exhibit E?
Yes.
I'm now approaching the witness. Can you identify this for me?
Yes, this is a diagram of Regan's apartment.
And where were you sitting during the night of August 14th in this apartment?
I was standing in the corner, and I had a pretty clear view of the room.
And where was Reagan Klein sitting?
She was sitting at the dining room table.
And during this night, have you ever seen Reagan Klein on Cameron's phone?
No.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Ross?
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. Patterson.
Good morning.
Who posted the threat on Sawyer's Nowpick post on August 14th?
Regan, but I know she didn't mean anything by it.
And who came up with the idea of catfishing Sawyer Smith?
It was Regan's idea initially, but me and Cameron both took part.
And you described this catfishing that you three participated in as petty and mean, correct?
Yeah.
You also go back and describe it as hilarious, don't you?
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Thank you, Ms. Patterson. On the night of August 14th, which was the same night Reagan posted the threat, you ordered a pizza and sent Cameron out of the room, correct?
Yes.
You did not see Cameron come back into the room at 9:10, did you?
No.
You also did not notice when Reagan was on Cameron's cell phone, did you?
I had a pretty clear view of the room.
But you did not notice when Reagan was on Cameron's cell phone.
No.
Thank you, Ms. Patterson. While the text-a-tip was sent out, you were on your phone, off in outer space, in your own words, correct?
Yeah, my sister tends to talk a lot about boring things like mechanics.
So you were not paying attention to what was going on, correct?
No, I wasn't listening to her. I was paying attention to the room.
In your own words, you were off in outer space, correct?
Yes, I wasn't particularly listening to my sister. As I said, she's boring.
Thank you, Ms. Patterson. So while the text-a-tip was sent out, you and Reagan Klein were the only people in the apartment, correct?
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Redirect, Your Honor?
Yes.
You were on a phone call with your sister, correct?
Yes.
And when you were on this phone call, were you off in space at all?
I wasn't paying attention to her, so I couldn't say that, yes.
Also, did at any point you witness, once again, Reagan on the phone?
No.
And how can you be sure that you never witnessed Reagan on the phone?
I had a pretty clear view of the room from where I was standing, and I wasn't paying attention to my sister, so I had nothing better to do.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions. May this witness please be
Yes, anything further?
No.
Yes.
The defense calls Dr. Blake Williams to the stand.
Blake Williams to stand. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to the facts, rules, of the mock trial competition?
I do.
Please be seated. Please state your full name, spelling your last for the record.
Blake Williams, W-I-L-L-I-A-M-S.
Thank you.
Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
I'd like to begin with some questions about your background. What do you do for a living?
I'm a professor at the University of California, like the good Dr. Chung, and I have been for roughly 24 years. It's also where I've conducted several studies on author identification through voice pattern analysis and vocabulary.
Why are you here today?
I'm here because I was given the same set of information as well as a texture tip as Dr. Chung to analyze in hopes of finding the author.
What did you find in your analysis?
I found that Cameron and Reagan have very different writing styles.
Your Honor, may I approach this witness?
Yes.
I'm now handing you what has been pre-marked as Exhibit D. Do you recognize it?
Of course, it's my research.
Is it a fair and accurate depiction of your research?
Yes, it is.
What was your conclusion on your analysis?
Well, again, like I mentioned, I found that Cameron and Reagan do have very different writing styles. And while both are present in a text tip, it seems like Reagan's vocabulary is much more forced, like it's disrupting the natural flow of what would be Cameron's writing.
Why was this your conclusion?
When analyzing vocabulary, it's a lot like looking at a pattern. Cameron's pattern seems pretty consistent, but we see bits and pieces of what would be Reagan's pattern popping up, as if somebody were trying to mimic the writing.
Are you familiar with Dr. Dakota Chung's analysis?
Yes, and it's a good analysis of the situation called for.
Why did you use a different approach?
Well, when you're already dead set on mimicking somebody else's writing, spelling, punctuation, things like that, they're very easy to fake. Vocabulary is more complicated.
In your professional expert opinion, did Reagan Klein send the text tip?
My analysis points to her not being the author, so no.
Your Honor, the defense offers Exhibit D.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
May I retrieve what?
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Cross-examination. Good morning, Dr. Williams.
Good morning, sir.
You agree that the stylistic approach looks for distinctive features, correct?
Yes.
You agree that Reagan's distinctive features are in the text tip, correct?
Sure and it, but correct.
More so than Cameron's?
Yes, but Cameron seems more natural.
But Reagan's distinctive features are in the text tip, right?
Objection, asked and answered.
That's the standard.
Looking at Exhibit D, Exhibit D is the analysis that you developed, correct?
That is correct.
And this analysis is nothing more than vocabulary choice, correct?
That is what it focuses on, yes.
And one of your main points is that Reagan is the use of metaphors, correct?
That is correct.
But there are no metaphors in the text tip, right?
No, there isn't.
And after the obvious indications of vocabulary or distinctions pointing towards Reagan, you said it's just someone else making the writing look like Reagan's?
Yes, Reagan seems more shoehorned in.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Redirect, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Doctor, why Why do you think Cameron was imitating Reagan Klein's vocabulary?
Well, if they are the only two culprits, it seems more logical that Cameron would be making it, considering his vocabulary is coming across like it's flowing much more naturally, while it seems as if she were purposely trying to insert it in there to make it look like Reagan's writing.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions. Thank you for your time, Doctor. May this witness be excused.
Anything further?
No, Your Honor.
Yes.
The defense calls Reagan Klein to the stand.
Reagan Klein. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to the facts and rules of the mock trial competition?
I do.
Please be seated. Please state your full name, spelling your last for the record.
Regan Klein, K-L-E-I-N.
Thank you.
Good morning, Ms. Klein.
Good morning.
I'm sure the court is interested in your background. Can you please describe yourself?
My name is Regan Klein. I'm 22 years old and I just finished my junior year at the University of California.
And what's your occupation, Ms. Klein?
Well, every summer I come home and work at this amazing restaurant called Hennessy's. I love it there.
And who did you work with at Hennessy's?
I work with my boss, Mr. Colossian, Sawyer Smith, Cameron Holmes, and Marlo Patterson.
What's your relationship like with Marlo Patterson, Ms. Klein?
Marlo and I got very close this summer. She's my best friend now.
And what's your relationship like with Cameron Holmes?
Cameron kind of gives me the weird vibe. I feel like she doesn't like me and she's really jealous of how close me and Marlo are.
Ms. Klein, what's your relationship like with Sawyer Smith?
Sawyer. Sawyer and I used to be best friends, but I guess you could say we had a falling out.
What happened in this falling out, Ms. Klein?
Well, everything changed when Sawyer got famous on Now Pick, and he dropped me as a friend, and I was devastated.
Ms. Klein, I'd like to direct your attention to August 14th. What happened tonight?
In that morning, I walked into work like any other day to find out that Sawyer told our boss, Mr. Colossian, my darkest secret, and
Objection,
Mr.
Your Honor.
Colossian fired
The
me.
witness's testimony calls for hearsay.
Just ask your next question. So,
Ms. Klein, what happened later that night?
Well, I went home and I posted something regarding Sawyer's gloating about getting me fired. And I commented something rude back to him, but I felt terrible after it. So I invited my best friend Marlo over and Cameron tagged along.
And what did you guys do?
Well, Marlo just made me feel better, so she ordered a pizza and she sent Cameron downstairs to get it. She was down there for about 5 minutes. Then she came back upstairs and she went on her phone and she was doing something. Then she finally put the pizza down.
What happened after Cameron put the pizza down, Ms. Klein?
Well, I burnt my mouth, so my phone was plugged in the other room. So I checked time quickly at 9:11 on Cameron's phone.
And what happened after you checked the time?
Well, then an officer showed up to my apartment.
Who was officer?
Officer Keegan Lopez.
Why was Officer Keegan Lopez at your door?
I guess something happened at Sawyer's place with the police, and I was terrified for Sawyer. I didn't know if he was okay or not.
And what happened after this, Ms. Klein?
Well, then I told the officer that I had nothing to do with it. And I also told him about the comment I posted, and I didn't mean anything by it. I just meant that I keep posting Sawyer's secret. Then I was arrested for a criminal threat.
Ms. Klein, did you send the text or tip?
No, I would never. Sawyer and I were best friends for 6 years. Although I was upset he got me fired, I'd never do anything to hurt Sawyer. He knows that.
Thank you, Ms. Klein. Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor. Miss Klein, isn't it true that it was your idea originally to catfish Sawyer?
Yes, me and my friends played a prank and catfished Sawyer.
And isn't it true you were on this catfishing account the most?
I ran everything by my best friend Marlo.
But you were on the account the most, correct?
Yes, along with Marlo.
And isn't it true that after you got fired from Hennessy's, you were enraged?
I was very upset, yes.
But you admitted to being enraged, correct?
I was very upset, yes.
And in your own words, didn't you even say you lost your mind?
Yes, I was in a momentary rage. I was so upset that Sawyer would do that. It only lasted a few minutes.
And in this momentary rage, isn't it even true you threatened Sawyer's life?
I wouldn't say I threatened Sawyer's life.
Didn't this threat even say you deserve to die?
I said some things I did not mean.
But it did say you deserve to die, correct?
It did say that, but I didn't mean it.
And it also said, I'm going to get you for this, you just wait. Correct?
Yeah, I was going to keep posting Sawyer's secrets over the internet.
But it did say this, correct?
Yes, that's what I meant by it.
And it also said, I hate you.
I thought I hated Sawyer, but after the many years of friendship, I can't bring myself to that.
But you did say this in the threat, correct?
Objection, Your Honor. Asked and answered.
Sustained.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And at the end of this threat, you even said, watch your back, Sawyer, I'm coming for you, correct?
I was coming for his brand, yes.
And isn't it true that Sawyer was swatted after you sent this threat?
I feel terrible. He hurt his leg.
It is true that he was swatted after you sent this threat, though, correct?
Objection, Your Honor. Asked and answered.
Have you heard, Your Honor?
Yes.
She didn't say yes or no. She was avoiding the question, Your Honor.
Overruled.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Can you please repeat the question?
And isn't it true that Sawyer was swatted after you sent this threat?
After I posted the comment, it comes to my knowledge he was swatted, yes.
And isn't it true you used the phone that was used to send the SWAT that same night?
Quickly at 9/11 to check the time.
Miss Klein, could you please approach Exhibit E?
Of course.
What is Exhibit E?
It's a floor plan of my apartment.
And where was the phone during the night of August 14th?
I guess it was on this table.
And where were you sitting on the night of August 14th?
I was sitting right here at the dining room table watching TV.
So you're sitting directly across from the phone during the night of August 14th, correct?
I guess you could say that. I was waiting for the pizza.
You may sit, Miss Klein.
Thank you.
Miss Klein, isn't it true you said you checked the phone at like 9/11?
Yeah, I remembered the numbers like 9/11.
And like is not a definitive answer, correct?
It was like 9/11.
But if you specifically checked the phone to look at the time, wouldn't you remember the time, Miss Klein?
Yeah, it was like 9/11.
And Miss Klein, you are aware of how life-threatening fake swatting can be, correct?
Yeah, that terrifies me.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Are you ready, Your Honor?
Yes.
Ms. Klein, what did you mean by the comments you posted on the hate account?
I was upset that Sawyer had got me fired. I didn't mean he deserved to die, but I just wanted Sawyer to know that I was going to keep posting his secrets on the internet, so maybe he'd lose a few followers.
Ms. Klein, what did Cameron Holmes do before she put the pizza down?
She went on her phone.
Thank you for your time, Ms. Klein. Your Honor, I have no further questions. May this witness be excused?
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, at this time the defense rests.
So someone will correct me if I'm wrong, but the prosecution doesn't get a rebuttal in mock trial, correct?
We do, Your Honor, for closing arguments.
Right, but there's, okay, so we'll start with closing arguments. Prosecution.
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Jessica Zell for the people. Today you have heard a story about how revenge and jealousy went too far. On August 14th, Reagan Klein got fired from her job at Hennessy's, and in her rage, she crossed the line and her actions turned criminal. First, she typed out a very threatening message for Sawyer. Then she chose to send it. Later that night, when the threat alone was not enough to satisfy her jealousy, she reported a fake SWAT in Sawyer's house, knowing that it could severely hurt or even kill Sawyer. Klein's violent personality and hatred for Sawyer proves that she is guilty of both counts. Today, Reagan Klein is charged with 2 counts: false report of an emergency and criminal threat. A false report of an emergency is any person who reports an emergency who knows that the report is false and who knows that the response to the report is likely to cause death or great bodily injury, and great bodily injury or death is sustained as a result of the false report. As a result of her rage and anger towards Sawyer, Reagan Klein deliberately and intentionally reported a fake SWAT in Sawyer's house, knowing that it could severely hurt or kill Sawyer. A criminal threat is a threat made by any person who threatens to commit a crime which will result in the death or great bodily injury of another person, with the specific intent that the threat is to be taken seriously. Reagan Klein made a clear and deliberate threat towards Sawyer Smith on August 14th, and later that night she carried out this threat by reporting the fake SWAT in Sawyer's house. Today, Sawyer Smith has testified that Reagan Klein continually harassed him for weeks, and when Reagan tried to stop this, or when Sawyer tried to stop this harassment, Reagan responded by threatening her life. Reagan even admits to saying, "You deserve to die. I'm going to get you for this. You just wait. I hate you. When you're gone, no one will even miss you." And she ended this threat with, "Watch your back, Sawyer. I'm coming for you." Even though Sawyer didn't want his fans to know it, he was scared by this threat and was scared that Reagan would carry out this threat and hurt him. Reagan Klein testified that she wrote out this threat and then took the second step of sending the SWAT to Sawyer, or sending the threat. 2 intentional and deliberate actions. Given the increasing level of animosity between Sawyer and Reagan, the threat could only have been intentional. Reagan cannot escape the fact that she intended for Sawyer to take the threat seriously, even if she didn't intend to actually carry out the threat. Reagan Klein should be found responsible for these violent, revengeful, and intentional criminal words. Later that night, after this threat was sent, Sawyer was swatted by a phone in Reagan's apartment, a phone that Reagan admits to using. Officer Keegan Lopez testified that the SWAT was fake. There was no emergency occurring in Sawyer's apartment. Sawyer was startled by hearing a noise downstairs, and when he went to go check to see what this noise was, he was startled by seeing the SWAT team barging into his home and fell down an entire flight of stairs. Sawyer testified he heard a loud snap and then blacked out from the pain. The result, a broken femur. Luckily, Sawyer did not break his neck or even die from falling down the stairs. So there is no real dispute that the SWAT occurred and was false, or that Sawyer sustained great bodily injury from this fall. Instead, the focus of this count is on who sent the false text tip that night. The evidence shows that only Reagan could have sent the false text tip. Now, there are 3 people in Reagan's apartment that night. Cameron Holmes admitted the phone was Cameron's, but Cameron could not have sent the false text tip because Cameron was downstairs from 9 to 9:10 p.m. waiting for the pizza. Marlo Patterson confirms that Marlo sent Cameron downstairs to wait for the pizza at the time the false text tip was being sent. Marlo Patterson was in the apartment, but everybody agrees that Marlo was on a separate phone with Marlo's sister during the time the false text tip was being sent. So this leaves Reagan. Reagan was the only person with both the motive and the opportunity to send the false text tip. The issue of who sent the text tip is also supported by Dr. Dakota Chung, an expert in linguistics. Chung testified that she examined numerous social media writing samples from Reagan and Cameron and found that the single most prevalent characteristic in the writing samples was the use of commas. When comparing the uses of commas between Reagan and Cameron, Dr. Chung found, and Dr. Williams had to agree, that Reagan used commas 55 times, and in comparison, Cameron only used commas 13 times. Today you have heard from the testimony of several witnesses that Reagan Klein had recently watched a news report and was acutely aware that the response to the false text tip was likely to cause great bodily injury or death. Remember, Reagan admits to being enraged after getting fired earlier that day. Within hours after getting fired, she sent the criminal threat to Sawyer. She did not get the reaction that she wanted, and so she took her anger and jealousy one step further. Reagan Klein reported a fake SWAT in Sawyer's house, knowing that it could severely hurt or even kill Sawyer. Today, the prosecution has undermined any reasonable doubt that the defense attempts to make. Reagan Klein, a violent and revengeful person, finally had the chance to hurt Sawyer Smith, and she took it. For these reasons, Your Honor, the people ask you find Reagan Klein guilty of a false report of an emergency and criminal threat. Thank you, Your Honor.
Argument for the defense.
Good morning, Your Honor. Today, I ask the court for a verdict of not guilty because Reagan Klein is not responsible for the horrific event that took place on August 14th, and the defense has shown that there was an alternative explanation. Someone else that had the motive to swap Sawyer. But it wasn't someone trying to destroy Sawyer's life, no. It was someone trying to destroy Reagan Klein's life. This other suspect, the person that should be on trial today, is Cameron Holmes. And it was shown that Cameron was jealous of Reagan and Marlo's relationship, even saying that she believed that Reagan was trying to steal her best friend. Suddenly, Reagan and Marlo are together even when Cameron can't be. They go to the same school, have the same job, share inside jokes, and even started to leave Cameron out of some things.
This is when Cameron decided to make a plan out of her pestering jealousy of Reagan. After all, what better way to get rid of someone permanently than to send them to jail? Your Honor, allow me to walk you through the night of August 14th. Reagan Klein had just been fired from her job and threatened to be sued for $34,000. She was devastated at being fired, so she invited her two best friends over, Marlo and Cameron, to talk it out and order a pizza. Now this is when the issue arises. At 9 o'clock, Marlo Patterson orders a pizza, and it says to be arriving. And at 9:02, the pizza arrives, and so she sends Cameron down to get it. And at 9:08, the text certificate is sent. And Cameron had a whole 5 minutes downstairs alone, right at the window of opportunity it would have taken to send the text. The prosecution has tried to paint Reagan Klein as a liar, as a fraud. They tried to paint this young woman as a criminal. But this is simply just not the case. Ask anyone that knows Reagan personally, and they will tell you how kind she is, how loyal, and that she is a good person. Her boss, Sam Kay, testifies today to her saving a child's life, and also testifies to watching a swatting news story with Reagan, Marlo, Sawyer, and Cameron. And whereas we know that Reagan was disgusted by the incident she saw on the news, even saying that she would never participate in something like that, what do we know about Cameron? All we know is that Cameron willingly jumped at the opportunity to catfish someone they didn't even have any personal problems with, and that's according to what Cameron said on stand today. Who would do that? Someone that has no difference between wrong and right. Someone that would do whatever they could just to maintain this lifelong bond with their best friend. All the evidence in this trial is circumstantial. So in order to convict my client of California Penal Code 148.3, you have to be completely convinced that the only possible conclusion is that Reagan Klein is the only possible person that could have sent that text. If the court can draw two or more reasonable conclusions, and one of those conclusions leads to innocence, then the court must go with that conclusion. Reagan is also being charged in today's case with California Penal Code 422, which is about a true threat. But it was shown today that Reagan testifies to making a statement that is being labeled as a threat, but she said that she never met any threat by this comment, that she simply made this comment in the heat of the moment, and that even Sawyer was never in fear. In fact, she saw these catfishing scams and the controversy that came with them as a way to gain on a social media platform that she had prided herself in so much. The comment that she's not calling a threat, in response she replied, LOL, as if now you're done, bye. Is this really something someone would say if they were in the same fear? As we saw in court today, Marlo Patterson never testifies to seeing Reagan on the phone, and she was in the corner of the room the whole night with full vision of everyone there. And also look back to testimony from Dr. Blake Williams, where he states the text tip was most consistent with Cameron's handwriting than Reagan's. And I ask Your Honor, I ask for a verdict of not guilty, because there is simply just too many holes in the prosecution's story, and that ignores that Cameron Holmes had the motive, ignores that Cameron Holmes had the opportunity, and ignores the reasonable conclusion that Cameron Holmes could have sent that text. No matter how they piece it together, the prosecution is not able to prove without any reasonable doubt that Reagan Klein is the person that sent this text. Maybe if the prosecution wants to find the true witness, or the true person that sent this text, then they should take a look at their own witness and ask what Cameron Holmes was doing during the time the text tip was sent. Ask why was it sent off of her phone, and why is she the only one that testifies to not bringing her phone downstairs with her? Yes, the guilty person is in the courtroom today, but it is not my defendant, Reagan Klein.
Thank you. Move on.
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, today the defense has tried to say that the prosecution has not met the burden of proof and has not proved each and every element beyond a reasonable doubt. This is refuted by the fact that the prosecution has proved Reagan Klein guilty of both counts. The prosecution has proved that Reagan Klein was the only person with both the opportunity and motive to send the false text tip that night. Today, Marlo Patterson even admitted that Reagan and Marlo were the only people in the apartment during the time the false text tip was sent. The prosecution has tried to say that Reagan is a loyal and kind person, but would a loyal and kind person threaten their former best friend? The defense has tried to say that Sawyer was not scared by this threat, but this is refuted by the fact that Sawyer admitted he was frightened and only pretended to not be scared to save face for his fans. Your Honor, the prosecution asks you to find Reagan Klein guilty of a false report of emergency and criminal threat. Thank you, Your Honor.
The prosecution has tried to put the blame on my client, Reagan Klein, but this is simply not possible because, like I said previously, all evidence in this trial is circumstantial. And by law, if the court can draw a reasonable explanation that leads to innocence, then the court must go with that conclusion. And a reasonable explanation is that Cameron was the one that sent the text, seeing as she had the motive and she had the opportunity. Also, Marlo Patterson was in the room with Reagan Klein the whole night, and she testifies to never seeing Reagan on the phone for a long amount of time, even saying that it would have been a little weird if Reagan was on Cameron's phone for a long amount of time. Talking about the other account, California Penal Code 422.
Stop.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, before I return a verdict, students may confer with their coaches regarding any trial irregularities. You can do so now.
None from the prosecution, Your Honor.
With regard to count one, the defendant did state she never intended to follow through with the threats, but that's not an element of the crime. The intent element of the crime is that they be taken seriously. I don't know how someone who says you deserve to die, I'm coming for you, wouldn't take that seriously. So I do find the defendant guilty of count one. Regarding count two, there are too many questions for me as to who actually sent that message. So I'm finding the defendant not guilty of count two. So at this time, I want to remind the scores to complete all boxes on the score sheet, and then those scores will be collected. So we'll be in recess until 12:30. Everyone should be back here about 12:15.